What's going on, everybody? My name is Ron Sparkman, and I am the Chief Curiosity Correspondent for the Space Foundation Discovery Center. And today, we want to welcome you all to Episode 2 of Space4U Live. We have a really special guest today, and she's definitely one of the top science communicators in the world. Her name is Athena Brensberger. She is better known as Astroathens. She's a science communicator, host, international model, and she does about 60 other things. So, Athena, welcome to the show.
Hi! Hello!
And she's always known to make an entrance. So, Athena, it's so great to have you on today. Thank you for doing this with us and talking about all the incredible things that you do. I do kind of want to plant a flag here real quick. This is only going to be a little bit of what we're going to be doing with Athena, because she's also going to be doing a Space4U full podcast with us that's going to be coming out really, really soon. And we're going to, in that, they're going to talk about even more topics, even of some of the cool things that she does. So let's go ahead and get started. Athena, what inspired your interest in space and science?
Yeah, so it did start when I was very young. I know that a lot of people really started at a young age. And for me, growing up in New York City, there was a lot of light pollution. So it didn't start with looking up and saying, oh, look at the stars. It was more like, oh, look, the moon. I can actually see it tonight. And my best friend, Anika Ahmed, gave me a book that was all images of the Hubble Space Telescope. And when I first saw the book, I was like, wow, these are great paintings. I thought it was artwork, like the poster behind me. And I was an artist. I love painting. So I thought it was that. And she's like, nah, man, these are like galaxies and nebulae, and they're millions of light years away. And there's tons of stars and probably other planets and probably other life. And as soon as that just like clicked in my head, in my little 12-year-old head, it was like a mind explosion. And I thought, wow, okay, this is the ultimate career to have as a human being, is to explore the unknown and the possibility of finding life. So it all started at 12 years old because of that book and because of my best friend.
And it's really cool that everybody has a different story about what it is with space from them, and it's always nice whenever it comes from a friend. It just makes it that much more beautiful. Totally. I'm so glad that this got you to be who you are today. So can you tell us a bit about what opened the door for you to become a science communicator?
I would say, really being able to take advantage of social media, the fact that it's so prominent right now in our lives. And when I decided to sort of explore science communications, it was actually when I was still doing my research in college at the Hayden Planetarium. And it was the first time I met Neil deGrasse Tyson. And it was actually kind of, yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
I said name drop.
Name drop, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. I mean, because he, him and Carl Sagan were the epitome of science communicators, and Carl Sagan had passed the torch to Neil for Cosmos. And when I met Neil, it was when I was doing my research. I missed the day that he met all the research students because I actually had just started doing modeling stuff and I was out on a casting and missed the day he met everyone. So I spontaneously happened to like run into him. He was getting off the elevator while I was like sitting down in like the little lobby area where the astrophysics research students were. And he started talking to me about my research. And pretty much I kind of laid it all down to him, sort of in a breakdown saying like, hey, I really want to pursue like theater, but I also really want to pursue science. I love both. And he introduced the term science communicator to me, and I didn't even know it was a thing. And it wasn't until like 5 years later, after like actually leaving my schooling to pursue a career as an actor and a model, that I started realizing, wow, social media is so prominent. Maybe I could become a science communicator for online rather than trying to go for the traditional television hosting. And that's really what kind of created my career, was just by seeing, let me just give it a shot. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'll just continue either acting or I'll go back to school and be a researcher. But it just took off. I started one YouTube video on centripetal acceleration, which was actually inspired by my first astronomy professor, Dr. Charles Liu. On the first day of class, he ran into the classroom, jumped on the desk, and was like, who wants to learn about science? About space, actually, because it was Astronomy 101. He put a stool on the desk and got a volunteer from class. She sat on there and he said, keep your arms and legs like stretched out. And he was like spinning the stool. And he's like, you see how she's spinning, like, kind of slowly. And he's like, pull your arms and legs in. And she rapidly, started rotating. He's like, that is a centripetal acceleration. And he taught us all about the centrifugal force and everything. And it was just in that moment, I realized like every person in that class, like people who are political science majors or communications majors or art majors, it just clicked for them. And they're like, wow, that was really fun. And that's science and that's reality. That's what makes up our physical world around us. And yeah, and that's like, yeah, that's kind of just, that's why I started my first YouTube video being that demo. And it just like, I don't know, it fulfilled me so much more than any other path I've taken. So, yeah.
And Charlie's great. Every time I've ever been around him, he's always been just a really funny guy. He always wants to talk to everybody in the room. I love the fact that he always does the Vulcan salute whenever he takes pictures with people.
And I didn't know you met Charles. That's awesome. I haven't seen him again since I'm in New York again. Well, I'm not right now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, once you get back to New York, and also just a quick note for people: if you want to throw the questions that you have for Athena down below, this is interactive. We're more than happy to take questions from people. So please let us know if you have anything in the comments, and we will make sure to get to them. So you were talking about YouTube, and YouTube is one of your big channels that you get a lot of your really cool, a lot of the really cool ideas of astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics out to the world in. So one of your most recent shows is Cafe Astroathens, which is just a really fun platform where you get to kind of ham it up a little bit and have a really good time. So can you, and that's something that we're pretty well known for. So can you tell us just a little bit about the show, what made you decide to go in that direction, and what people can expect from it?
I love that you say ham it up, because that is exactly like the epitome of what it was, of what I was going for. It's kind of funny of how it actually originally first started. I was in a bar with one of my friends that had a fireplace, and I was writing out the wave function of like part of Schrodinger's equation. And I don't know why. I think I was like planning on just doing a standard YouTube video, which was just my original like talking to camera type thing. And because her and I are just really funny together, I decided to kind of like put like a scarf over like my head and be very sophisticated, and sat by the fireplace and was like, I should do, like that whole like drinking like brandy and talking about like history. I should do one for astrophysics. So I was sitting by the fireplace and I'm like, hello and welcome to the astrophysics conversation by your fireplace. And that's kind of how it started. But then I never did it again until I got an espresso maker in LA, and I made a shot of espresso, and I was like, this, just talking to myself. I think I was on FaceTime maybe with Anika, and I was like, this shot of espresso is like a gamma ray burst. It's the only version of coffee that delivers such a high intensity of caffeine in one burst, and it lasts for a really quick moment, and then you can digest it so quickly it goes through your bloodstream, and then you'll need more. And it won't really last that long. And I'm like, it's kind of like a gamma ray burst in cosmology. And so I was like, whoa, I should do a video about how my coffee is like a gamma ray burst. And so that was kind of the first episode. And I really missed dressing up and like, doing like a character. And I was like, I should do a character. And I was like, just for fun. It was really just for myself. It wasn't even for like trying to make my audience happy. I kind of just did it to have fun. And I really missed acting. So I was like, I'm going to like just put on my own character, try to get like the most exuberant outfit possible. Because originally I wanted to be like the guy with the brandy and talking by the fireplace. So I was looking for like a burgundy robe, couldn't find one. So I was like, I'll just put on whatever, some pearls, some like fancy look girl version of what this guy's like. And then that's kind of what started Cafe Astroathens. And I guess after the first episode, I got a lot of feedback from people where they were like, this is brilliant. Like, it really clicks for me. And they're like, I changed every episode. It was like a different version of a coffee and how to relate that to a type of occurrence in space. And so I've just always like really kind of evolved it. And so, you only have so many options when it comes to coffee. So I've started exploring other things. Like I talked about the diamond rain on Neptune. So I actually made kind of like a blue spritzer drink. So since it was blue and Neptune's blue, I did that. And then I've added like sugar cubes to represent like certain like galaxy collisions. There's just like all these different things I ended up coming up with. So as far as like where it's heading towards, I honestly, I'm just kind of going with it right now. In all honesty, it's sort of just, it's become like my own little passion project and my own like hobby, except that it's those videos are some of the most watched videos on my channel. Just because I think the topics are usually like the most recent occurrences. And like the last one I did was about the fact that Earth now has a new moon, and I'm at my dad's house, so I don't have my Nespresso machine, all my usual stuff. So I'm like, do you have like a little a little cup or something to represent how this new moon is little. And he's like, well, yeah, but then I got him this rocket science mug from Kennedy Space Center. So I'm like, wait a second, the rocket science mug can represent our actual moon, our natural satellite, and the mini cup will represent the mini moon. And so I'm like, this is great, cool, like awesome. So yeah, that it kind of, yeah, it really does vary based on what the topic is.
It really is a great show, and it's awesome to see all the different science communicators that we get to be friends with and work with that are coming up with these really interesting ideas on how to communicate the science. Everybody is different. Everybody's coming up with something really cool. What Kevin's been doing with a place called Space, what you've been up to with that, and really, it's been incredible. And one of the things that you actually have taken advantage of that not a whole lot of science communicators are onto yet is TikTok. And you have done quite well there. I actually didn't realize how many followers you had on TikTok until a couple of days ago. It's really taken off for you because of the cool little experiments that you're doing that can get people outside, even being socially distant, and some stuff that they can play around with. So tell us a little bit about what made you decide to hop over to TikTok and what the inspiration for those experiments might be.
So originally I had downloaded TikTok maybe 2 years ago, never did anything with it, was trying to kind of do the whole like voiceover things that they have on there. And it felt really cringy for me. Because I'm not 12 years old. I'm not 15. Like that's kind of the demographic a lot on TikTok, or at least it was in the beginning. And I just was kind of like, this is just weird for me to try to do this. So I stepped away from it. And then I saw that there was like this need for science communicators and educators on TikTok. And I actually got reached out to by TikTok, and they were like, hey, we like the content you make on YouTube. We really want to expand what TikTok's about. We want to show that there's other type of content on there. And they're like, would you be interested in being one of our first science creators on there? And I was like, sure. So I just actually got an email a couple of days ago about being part of their creator program. So I'm not sure where that'll go next, but I'm about to join. And I guess it's more like I kind of just got in early. And so I guess it's similar to how YouTubers first got started on YouTube, and they got on when like no one really was on. And so I just happened to go on there, and I first tried some videos where I just did like how my YouTube videos were, where I would talk to camera and explain little things, but you only have 60 seconds. So I thought maybe I'll do what I was doing on Instagram a while ago, where I would just do astrophysics in 60 seconds. So it's like kind of like minute space pretty much. And it was kind of working. And then I just thought, what if I did like a DIY experiment for like, general relativity? The easiest you could try and use to explain the warping of space-time based on the mass of the celestial object. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of tried it one day, and that was the first video that hit 1.2 million or over 1 million views. Yeah. And that's when I was like, okay, this is catching on. And the comments from kids, like it really lights me up. Like that is enough for me to be able to keep going, because I get comments from like kids that are, teenagers, or like teachers or professors and parents saying like, we got to do this experiment for like my kids like project, and they ended up getting extra credit. They ended up getting a passing grade because they were struggling on their tests. And I come up from a background where I was a horrible test taker. I probably still am. And what really got me through, you too. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so maybe for you is similar. What got me through in class was by doing projects or being overly participant. And that's what really helped, get me through in class, because it was so difficult to just do tests. And like, I get that there's a lot of kids out there, especially now everyone being in quarantine because of coronavirus, all their classes are online. All of it is through a screen. So, the tests are going to kind of become, I don't want to say testing is going to become irrelevant, but until they come up with a method where they can know whether or not the student is like cheating, anyone who's going to be doing a test from home, they can easily have another computer and Google these things. So honestly, I think the best way to move forward is through helping kids in the classrooms do presentations to their other students and like actually show that they learned something and that they know what they're talking about when it comes to the class curriculum. So yeah, so with TikTok, that was really the inspiration. And since that really started to spiral and pick up, I just was like, wow, okay, let me do another DIY like video. And I did one where I tossed my sneakers in the air, but I tied them together and it showed a binary star system. And like, it just, I don't know, like that, again, that was enough for me to like drive me forward to say, okay, this is really impacting people. And it's like, it's a whole different demographic than what's on YouTube, than what's on, you know, Instagram. So yeah, so it's been really awesome.
And you've done a great job at it. In fact, you've inspired a couple of us, including me, to start playing around with it a little bit more. And it's got a lot of opportunity, and it's also surprisingly a very positive platform. A lot of social media, we won't go into it, but can have some difficult aspects to it. Really, you go there, you're not going to see a whole lot of that. It's a lot of people having fun, goofing off, dancing, trying to make the best out of what they've got. A lot of comedy, and so it's a really fun platform. And a lot of adults haven't caught on to that yet, and it looks like they are more and more. And it's great to have somebody like you that's out there. So speaking of Kevin DeBruin, Kevin actually hopped in a minute ago, and he had a suggestion. He said, "How about drinking salt water for Europa's Ocean for one of the Cafe Astroathens episodes?"
Wait, drinking salt water for what?
For Europa, and then doing a Europa episode. Yeah.
Maybe I should just get like a fish and then put a little astronaut helmet on and say space fish. Because like that's what that first started was from Kevin, but I think that was in reference to Enceladus because of the hydrothermal vents. So yeah, I'll drink some salt water for sure.
I love that Europa and Enceladus end up becoming a topic on every show so far. So that makes me happy because those are two of my favorites. So we got to start throwing Titan in there from time to time too.
Yes. Oh yes, the Titan like quadricopter. So for
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, Dragonfly.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you do when it comes to being a host. So on the podcast, on the Space4U podcast, you're going to talk a little bit more about this in depth. But let's talk about your newest venture, and that's you joined Arion Group for the final countdown launches. Can you tell us a little bit about your role with them, how you got involved with that?
Yeah, so it's so funny that a lot of the collaborations I've had or the partnerships have just come through like a random email, like just an email in my inbox, and I'm like, oh, hello. And I'm like, okay, like, is this real? Is this legit? Can I trust them? So I got on a call with the producer and he was like, hey, yeah, pretty much we really want to make more of an interactive show during the launch. We want to cover every single launch, but we want to have a group of hosts. We want to have like, one main host in the middle, a couple size communicators, a couple people to interview, and then we're going to be doing, games. If you've seen the show, you kind of know what it's like. We brought on like a musician, we had someone singing, we had like a performance, we've had trivia games, we've had, obviously people that are part of like huge missions, and then you have an actual like mechanical engineer from Arion Group itself to like run through the whole launch with us. And then we'll also watch the live stream, which is through Arion Space. So they have their own live stream that goes up. And then we're able to sort of like, like also be there and like watch the live stream with them, see them covering it in French Guiana, which is, down in South America. And then we're there kind of being like cheering them on, saying like, yeah, like this is awesome. This is what's happening during a launch. And it was just so awesome when it first happened. Like, I mean, I'm actually representing them today. This was the VA 251 mission. So this one right here was, there we go. I'll go right there. That was for the Ariane 5 rocket, and that was when I actually had gone down to Guyana Space Center, which was so cool. I went into the Amazon to be like their person live from the launch itself and from the live broadcast, and it was the launch itself for the Connect satellite, and there was this whole like, it was just so cool. There was this whole like build up to the actual mission itself, and we got to explore the whole space center. I got to interview a lot of people from just Arion Group in general, also from Kness. So Kness is also part of like helping build parts of their rockets. And then we have Arion Space. So there's all these incredible people, and then European Space Agency that come together to make the launch happen. And just when I first, was asked to be on the show and to be one of the hosts, I was like, awesome. Like, I'm going to be in Paris, I'm going to be part of the show. And then this whole other world opened where they asked me to like, hey, like, do you want to go down and do interviews? We're going to go around, we're going to send down a camera guy with you, and we'll start, just finding out everything that it takes to really, put a launch together. And so it was just such an adventure. Like, I never in a million years would have thought like something like that would have happened, honestly, after, just sort of taking that risk one day and making that one YouTube video on centripetal acceleration. And, it's been such an amazing journey. And I'm still in shock when I look back at the images and the videos of when I did it. Cause it was just incredible. I've covered 2 launches with them so far. There's more launches coming up, which I'm so excited for. There's a lot to look forward to with Ariane Group. I'm excited for their Ariane 6 rocket, which is going to be towards the end of this year. So sometime around November, it's their latest configuration of the Ariane rocket. So I'm just so stoked for them. It's going to be, there's so much going on. I can't. I just can't believe that I'm fully immersed in this industry. And it really, I don't know, it just goes to show when you really love something, just keep pushing and driving yourself forward, because, you'll be included, and it's awesome.
I agree. And that's one of the incredible things about the space industry is that folks like you and I get to go out there and do this. Just from one of the terms that I like that you refer to yourself as is a space evangelist, which I also I love that title, and I've definitely stolen that from you. I love the fact that we get to be out there and tell the world about what's going on with space and science, and we just get to to nerd out and have a good time. And there is a place in space for everyone. So it's a really, really cool thing that you get to get out there and share it with everybody. And it's there's just so much that's happening right now, and it's great to have somebody like you that's out there. And another big thing that's coming up that both of us are very excited about is that we're getting ready to launch humans again from U.S. soil. And I know it's a mission that you're really excited about. So can you tell us a little bit about this launch that's coming up from SpaceX?
Yes.
Why you're so excited? Because I know why I'm excited.
Yes. So it's demo 2. So this is the Crew Dragon launch. I am so excited for that. And it started years ago when I got to go into the SpaceX facility down in Hawthorne and see the early developments of Dragon. I just remember being wow, this is nuts. So now to see that it's going to be happening in only a couple of months. So the expected launch date is somewhere around end of May. They said no earlier than May. So we'll kind of see, especially everything with COVID-19 right now. But I'm just so stoked, the astronauts are already set. They got everything set up. I think there's just final touches being done right now on the Crew Dragon capsule. But yeah, this is it's going to be awesome. I think that something to keep in mind about why this is so important is that, of course, collaborating around the world with other countries is so important. I'm a big fan of that. Every time we wanted to launch American astronauts to space, to the space station, it usually was through Russia. So the Soyuz capsule is what we would use. Totally cool, launching from Kazakhstan, awesome. Love the Russian space program, but it would cost about $81 million per seat. And I think a lot of times people don't know that. And although again, it's cool, to develop, Crew Dragon is costing a lot of money, but $81 million per seat per astronaut for a one way to go to the space station, to actually put that money towards a reusable capsule and then be able to not only use it for US soil, but also, launch other astronauts from around the world off of US soil. I think that's going to be amazing. And I think that there was a huge halt in the inspiration of space and the interest in space with a lot of people when the space shuttle program ended. And even before the space shuttle program ended, I think that there wasn't too much talk about space exploration because, there are a lot of rocket launches happening from the United States. But unless you're in the space industry, I notice a lot of people aren't aware of that. I actually didn't even know till I went to my first NASA socials, which was years ago. And there was an engineer from United Launch Alliance saying, yeah, there's about 6 launches happening per month, not from United Launch Alliance, just generally around the world. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, wait, there's that many rockets launching from the Earth every month? And she's like, yeah, sometimes it's a lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, but sometimes there's less. And I just remember thinking I didn't even know about that because, the media doesn't cover a lot of it and the news doesn't cover a lot of it unless there's a stunt done, like Elon Musk setting up his roadster or, something really big happening. But usually there isn't a lot of coverage for it. And so that's why I think there wasn't much interest in space, especially with the younger generations. So what I love is that now that there's so much to look forward to, like not only with, the Demo 2 mission, but also with, Blue Origin, but also with Virgin Galactic, there's so much talk around space. And honestly, if I think if looking at these companies isn't enough of a message to realize how immersed we are in space nowadays, just walk into any Target, Walmart, Whole Foods even, and you'll see, like, once NASA kind of allowed for their logos to be used publicly, it's just been everywhere. And I think that, a lot of people were kind of like, oh yeah, but everyone has it. And I'm like, yeah, everyone has it. Like, that's a great thing. And I'm like, I think that more people should kind of be saying, oh, like, what's this on your shirt? Why is that a rocket? Like, are you a nerd? And I'm like, actually, yeah, let's chat about it. Like, you shouldn't be considered or classified as a nerd to want to pursue something that is like a human right. Just the fact that we exist is like a cosmological human right. It's just crazy. I think that we all should be exploring a bit of science and space, because if it wasn't for space even happening or things colliding, we wouldn't even be here. And so that's just the start of everything, of why we're even here. I think we get so caught up in economy and politics and everything like that, which is understandable, but we all built this society. Like, it was built by people not smarter than any of us, just like people like you and me's built up all of this. So I think that when we start to look a lot more at kind of what's happening in space, it's just, I don't know. I just totally rambled on that moment, but it just.
No, that's the best part. I can't say much about it because I am known to be the rambler. So, and especially when it comes to space and science, it's difficult not to be. And so, because we were running a few minutes late to start, I definitely want to hop into just like another question or two. Give you a chance to ramble one more time. Outside of where we come from and the fact that we're all made of star stuff. And it's one of the coolest things, one of the coolest facts in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we're all kind of connected to each other. Is the fact that there's always something new in space and science, from astronomy to rocket launches to cosmology, all of that. And one of them recently was that Earth had a new mini moon. And that's a really cool thing. So you can tell us, can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I do know that you talked about it in one of your most recent episodes. Like, just give maybe some details on what happened with that and how that came about.
Yeah. So it was discovered just about, I want to say about a month ago now. I had published a video about a week ago. And so the mini moon may be drifting away from us now, but essentially it is like a rogue asteroid that ended up getting pulled into Earth's orbit. So it's actually orbiting around Earth now. So it got pulled in by our gravity. And usually when something like this happens, it gets pulled in by the sun's gravity and will then orbit around the sun. But what's so strange about this one is it's actually pulled in by Earth's gravity and is now orbiting around Earth with our own moon. So with the moon. It doesn't really have a special name. This new mini moon is called 2020 CD3. Such a clever name. I was doing some research to see if it had any other cute name. So far, it does not. Yeah, just 2020 CD3. And it was first discovered, obviously, as an asteroid. And when they noticed that it was staying within our orbit, that they realized, okay, so something about it is allowing for it to stay here. It's only going to be here for about a month, and then it's going to be swinging back out into the further parts of our solar system, and it'll return in about 10 years. That's because they were able to measure its exact orbital trajectory and be able to see that it's going to then loop back around and get pulled in by the Earth's gravity. What's cool about it also is earlier in 2019, it was earlier than that. So right at the end of the Cassini mission, Cassini noticed that in the rings of Saturn, moonlets were starting to form. And a moonlet is just like an early formation of a moon. So the rings of Saturn is made up of a bunch of dusty ice particles, and they're colliding with each other a lot. And a lot of times they can start to accrete and start to form spherical bodies that then could start to form into a moon, which would then eventually become, separate from the rings and start to orbit around Saturn separately. And it's so cool because there's so many of these objects between Mars and Jupiter. There's the asteroid belt. And a lot of times, because of the strong gravitational force of Jupiter, it can actually throw off one of the asteroids off of its trajectory, and it can swing towards the inner solar system. So right now, astronomers believe that this is what's happening. This is what the 2020 is smiling about. Sorry, I'm like, is there a comment about this? Because I would love to hear.
Not yet. There's a lot of comments. So there's a lot of shout outs to you right now from some really cool people. We'll get to that in a minute, though.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've had some awesome people watching right now. Yeah.
Yay! I'm so happy. So pretty much this is what astronomers believe that 2020 CD3 is. That it is, it is probably an asteroid, but we call it our moon because it is now technically one of our natural satellites because it is orbiting around Earth. But it's just like really awesome because this actually can happen a lot more often than we think. Anytime like around the asteroid belt that like, I don't know, say one of the asteroids comes like super close to Jupiter and then like it's swung into Jupiter's like gravitational force, and then Jupiter's like constantly rapidly rotating, has really strong winds, it could fling the asteroid back out into space. And and then it's kind of like Earth just like caught it. It's like a big giant game of billiards, and it's like someone just sort of like hit the white ball smashed into a green ball, a solid green ball. The solid green ball swung towards Earth, which is the blue stripe ball, and then it just happened to like kind of rotate around it. I don't know. It was kind of like a weird demo. But essentially that's what happened. And it's just really cool. It's about the size of a car also, heads up. So it's relatively small, unlike the moon, which is like a lot bigger. But it's just like pretty awesome. And like I think when it first came out in the news, everyone was hitting me up about it and was like, did you hear about this? Like, what is this? Oh my gosh. And yeah, it's awesome. But I think something to keep in mind is this is why doing like, an asteroid mission is really important, and how to do like an Earth protection is so important, or having like a planetary protection program, because asteroids are constantly flinging in and out of the inner solar system all the time. So the fact that we just happened to catch one of them and it stayed within our orbit, that's great. But if it had any stronger force from when Jupiter flung it out, it could have totally been like goodbye gravity of Earth and like collided right with us. So this is something really important to keep in mind as to why, I think a lot of astronomers and just people in general in space industry really say we got to have these missions set up, So yeah.
And obviously, I agree 100%. We all laugh about the movie Armageddon because it was just so over the top. There are definitely some organizations and some plans in place that are always watching the skies for this stuff. We've actually got a really cool comet on the way that we're going to be able to see. It's going to be really bright in the night sky here in the next few weeks. It could be as bright as Venus, so it's going to be really cool. So there's always new stuff out there, and there's always stuff coming our way. But we've got a lot of really smart people that are sitting and working on these big ideas, which is amazing.
Yes.
So one more question, and you kind of touched on this a little bit already, and I'm glad that you did, but you and I have a non-traditional path to get kind of where we are. Not a lot of people, end up in science communication in kind of some of these ways, and you were certainly an inspiration to a lot of people, just like me. So can you give some words of advice to people that maybe want to follow in your footsteps a little bit and do what you do?
Yeah. So one of the first things I usually like to kind of stress on is finding a mentor. And I mean, I'm not really referring to myself in this case. I mean, I could help. I've messaged some people in the past who've asked me for advice, but really truly look for a mentor that's like there in person with you, because Dr. Charles Liu, the professor I mentioned earlier from my first astronomy class, he really he was my mentor. I mean, I still consider him my mentor, and in the beginning, when I was doing my research, he's the one who opened the door for me with NASA. He's the one who kind of opened a door for me to give America's Next Top Model a shot. He's like, go for it. Do it. Why not? Pursue theater. Because he himself came from a path that was both musical theater and astrophysics. And so I would say the first step is to really look for someone that you can, go to as a mentor, ask for advice or help, or how they got down that path, whatever it is. And then really start to kind of envision what it is that you want to actually create when it comes to whether it is online, or if you wanted to go more into standard television, look at what it is you want to have and then the skill sets that you need to get there. And like for me, you know, to go towards everything with the internet, I kind of just said, let me give it a shot first and see if it works out. And I just took a huge risk. Like I really do take a lot of risks. So I do recommend people to kind of like take risks as long as, you know, they're healthy and they're like not, it's not contributing to like any type of like thing with them being at risk for anything, you know, health wise, like don't jump off a building. But, you know, when it comes to creating content, like definitely like go for it, like create stuff. Don't be so concerned about saying, oh, the script has to be perfect. The lighting has to be perfect, blah, 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 blah. Like when I started, it was on an iPad mini, which was like from 2004 or 5, no, 2000, no, that's too early, 2011. And every
Ooh. You froze. I think we both froze. Maybe just Athena froze.
Oh no!
Yep.
Wait,
are
we back?
Yep, you're back. Okay, cool. I'm glad. It makes me very happy. So you froze like midway through that last sentence.
Okay. So, well, I'll break it down in steps because that's what did so well on my TikTok. So, step 1, find a mentor. Step 2, envision what it is you want to create. Step 3, look for the skill sets that you need to get to where you have to get to and practice it every single day. And I mean, like, I'd be up till 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, just like running things over and over and over again, like in my mind, right? Learning to like write things out, learning how flow works, like really being a presenter. And I would say like, you know, step 4, definitely like take some risks when it comes to like going for that meeting or being super extroverted in an event. And there's times where like, I want to be so introverted. I'd rather just be home and relax. But I know that if there's an event that I could be going to where I could be mingling with people, even if I feel like, you know, just tired or lazy or whatever, I will push myself and say, you know what, just go. If I'm not feeling sick, I'll go. And I end up meeting some of the most extraordinary people. And just go alone to things. Don't be worried about having to be with another person and connect with people, because people, I think, are what's going to open the most doors for us in general, is like really realizing that we have to do life with other people. We're put on this planet with other people for a reason. We were created with other people for a reason, you know, and it's just like, obviously, otherwise our species would die out. Same thing with animals. The species would die out if there weren't other animals. So really like look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with and like make sure that it's like, you know, just people that you lift up, that they lift you up, that you lift up together. And if you want to pursue stuff in science communications, like, you know, digest this stuff every single day. That's another really good thing is to sign up for every newsletter you can when it comes to any type of science outlets, anything like that, futurism, any type of tech outlets. Sign up for all their email outlets. Every single morning I get like 15 emails in my inbox about like new science news, because that's what inspires me to make videos. Rather than making a to-do list saying make 10 videos this month, no, say read 40 articles this month. You know, actually look at the way that you're phrasing things for yourself, because that's when you'll actually start to want to move forward in creating the content or talking to people. And one other last tip I'll say is to volunteer. So I volunteered at space museums. The first time was actually at the Intrepid in New York City. And they have the space shuttle there, the Space Shuttle Enterprise. So it was the orbiter. It never went to space. It was a prototype. And I volunteered there because I wanted to practice people skills and presentation skills. I was like, if I can talk in front of thousands of people every single day, groups of kids, everything like that, and be able to memorize information about the giant space shuttle that was behind me, then I will actually know that this is what I'm meant to do with my life. And if it was bad, and I was like, you're going to be nervous at first. You're going to be like, super shy, whatever it is. You might forget some information. You might not know the answer to a question, but it's how you respond to that you're going to realize, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. I do want to be able to be a presenter, but for science. So I would say definitely volunteer. Just get yourself around the language and around the people, for sure. There's so many museums around the world. So it's really a lot easier than I think a lot of us think.
And shameless plug here, you are always welcome to come and volunteer with us at the Space Foundation Discovery Center. I myself started as a volunteer, and quite a few of our contractors and employees did just that. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. And to touch on one other thing where you mentioned go to these events. I was terrified of my first space symposium. There was going to be so many people there. It's such an incredible experience, and I met some people that absolutely changed my life that have been just incredible. Other science communicators like Dr. Erin McDonald. She's incredible. She's doing all kinds of really cool stuff. And when you go to these things, you get to meet people, and then you kind of get to watch their career path. So you might meet them when they're first starting out, and then you get to see them go on to do these incredible things. And it's nothing cooler. There's nothing cooler in the world than to watch that. And I think it's always awesome watching like all the amazing stuff that you're up to. And so other people can do the same. Can you give us all of your information for your social media channels, your Patreon, YouTube, all that stuff, and we'll make sure to drop that in the information below.
Yeah. So, well, my address is, no, I'm just kidding. The Mars. I live on Mars, everyone. No. So everything is Astroathens. I made it really simple. So Astroathens, all one word. That's my TikTok, my Twitter, my Twitch, which I don't use often, my Facebook, my Instagram, of course, YouTube, Patreon. All of it is Astroathens. My website is astroathens.com. And there's actually something I've been working on for about a year now, a new function on my website that I'll be releasing soon. So I'm really excited to kind of like tell everyone about that. But I won't say too much about it just because I'm still working on it a bit. But it's something I've never seen before on other websites. And I was like, I think we could use this. So I'll be launching that soon on astroathens.com. So I'm excited.
Love it. And actually, you know what? We do have a couple of questions that were in the comments that I have missed. So if you want to touch on some of these real quick, we can. I think one of them is going to be a very interesting answer. Probably a very easy answer, honestly, because I know I've seen them. So Ian Lauer, who works for Ops Telescopes, which is one of the coolest telescope organizations in the world. If you don't check them out, please do. They're amazing. Want to know if we have seen the slow motion shots that Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut, and Cosmic Perspective are getting with the telescopes that they're using, which is really, really cool. I've seen it. Have you seen it yet? Because it's some really interesting footage. It makes me want to go and try the same stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely seen those every single day, looking at what like Ryan and Mary Liz Bender have been working on. So Everyday Cosmic Perspective, and then obviously Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. It is awesome. I want to like see them next time in person to see what it's like when they set all the equipment up, because it's awesome. Like, I don't think we've really had that before in the past when it came to slow motion videography with rocket launches. So it definitely gives you a whole new view. And then I love what Cosmic Perspective does, where they add on like the voiceovers as well of, just kind of everyone's like reactions and stuff like that. Which reminds me, I got to get to them some of the audio from the last launch, the CRS-20 launch, because I happen to pick up a lot of audio of the NASA socials group. So definitely want to send it to them later. It's amazing. Yeah, for sure. I love what they're doing.
And speaking of which, I do notice that Rachel Edison, who was at your last event, get a quick shout out to you and said hello.
Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people in here too, a bunch of amazing science communicators, people that are out there doing things. I know we're running short on time. I do have one last question. This is from Dwight Stephen, and I hope I'm saying his last name right. Banicki. I think it is. If it's not, then Dwight, please tell me in Messenger, and I'll get it right next time. He says, I noticed that since shuttle launches have stopped, the American public seems to have stepped away from science, e.g. the resurgence of flat Earth theories. Do you think this will change once launches start again on U.S. soil? That's a really interesting question.
That is a really great question. I hope so, for sure. Oh gosh, no, don't show me all the background. That's a sword. And so we lost Ron. But if you guys are still there, I guess I'll just keep talking. So that is really there we go.
That was weird. Yeah. So
I was like, no,
there's still a couple things we're working out on this one. It's a new platform, but yeah.
At least you guys all got to see my dad's cool Soulade.
Yeah.
So,
your dad's pretty cool.
He is. I'm sitting with a scorpion right now too, and a tarantula and two different snakes. Anyway, so flat earthers, I definitely hope it does. I still think there's some type of thing that people just really enjoy about conspiracy theories. I think it's just because they would much rather have the interest in the unknown rather than the known. And they tend to affiliate science with the known, when in fact, science really is exploring the unknown. And I think that the more that we start to look at science and then metaphysics and then, conspiracy theories. There's this really nice in-between place, which I love, which is metaphysics. So I almost feel like the human population, with more launches happening from US soil, might go from like flat earth theories to conspiracy theories, maybe more into that metaphysics realm, saying, hey, how about we look at the real science of things and looking at like what is being worked on when it comes to, say, like quantum mechanics, and apply that to the things we can explain in our real world. That's where the thinking really happens, and that's where the innovation happens. So I'm really hoping that that's going to be the pathway, with now having more launches happening from the United States, especially humans being launched from US soil. I think that it'll really change once more tourists start to go to space, like with Virgin Galactic. I think that that's when we'll actually see the curvature of Earth. We'll say, oh, okay, I guess, these people know what they're talking about, these physics people, so I'm really hoping that that's the case, when it comes to flat earthers and a lot of, what people believe about, like aliens and all that other stuff. So yeah, I do think it's going to change a lot, but I think there will be some people that are still going to stay kind of in their own like hobbit hole and say, I don't care, the rest, everybody's a lie. But, can't really do anything about everybody. So unfortunately, we can definitely communicate to them, but I don't want to be pulling any teeth.
And that's that's what we try to be here for, is to be these resources. That's what organizations like Space Foundation are out there for. The Discovery Center, where you can come to a museum and you can, or to our Discovery Center and ask all these questions. We do really cool stuff like Science on a Sphere, where we get to show you tours of the solar system and get to talk about these really cool things. So please do make sure to come and see us, or check out our website at discoverspace.org. We've got some really cool things on there right now, talking about all these interesting ideas that maybe people are really interested about. And of course, Athena is doing so many incredible things on her social media pages and on her YouTube channels and all of that fun stuff. So please check it out. And this is just going to wrap up this interview. We're actually working on something really, really cool. We appreciate you listening today, but do make sure to check out the upcoming Space4U podcast. It's going to be even more in depth. It's going to talk more about, there's some really big topics about Athena we didn't get into. Her work as an international model, working with organizations like Seeker, Futurism, The Tomorrow Show, which I'm big fans, huge fans of Tomorrow Show. Like, I'm super jealous that you get to do that one, and so much more. So make sure you check out that Space4U podcast. Athena, we appreciate you coming on today. It was awesome. Any final words to tell anybody before we do our final plug here?
I don't know. Everyone just keep exploring space. I hope everyone's remaining healthy, you guys and your family, and yeah, just definitely connect more with each other and keep looking up at the sky.
Love it. Physical distancing, but social connecting, I believe, is what Loretta Whitesides recently said, and I love that. So just some really amazing things going on out there, man. You're all being really inventive and finding ways to connect with each other, and we are really lucky that we get to be some of those people. And so that's going to conclude this episode of the live edition of Space Foundation Space4U podcast. Keep your eyes and ears open for more Space4U episodes that are coming out soon. You can find those on our social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course you can find it on our website at spacefoundation.org. And on all those outlets and more, it's our goal to inspire, educate, connect, and advocate for the space community. Because of the Space Foundation, we will always have space for you. Thank you so much for joining. And Athena, thank you once again.
Bye.
We'll see you on the next one. What a way to end.